Actually, I wish I could turn the camera around and show you the nice view outside. That is a tuk-tuk going by. I can't see that, it's in the little track. But I have some nice trees, and I will do that on a future occasion. Apologies if you were watching the live chanting this morning at 6 p.m. our time. That is Indian Standard Time, Sri Lanka. I mean 6 a.m. It cut off halfway through, I think, something like that, because the internet ran out. My fault. I don't know why I thought it could work without internet. But one of those things. Anyway, never mind. It's every day at 6 a.m. So please subscribe and you won't miss the opportunity to join me for a short chant in the morning, followed by a shortish meditation, just 15 minutes, and some blessings for your happiness and well-being to make your day go well. It certainly makes my day go well to start that way. I have the good fortune prior to that to be able to meditate for a good long time beforehand. So, hello and welcome. I am a little hot today, so I have the electric fan here on the floor just to keep me a little bit cooler. And with this fluffy attachment, I hope that there are no too much in the way of sound distortion because of the breeze. And as is almost predictable, as I begin to talk, someone has begun to use some kind of electric saw. I can hear in the background. Whether this is picking that up or not, I don't know. It's one of those unpredictable things, like all things, anicca, uncertainty. I'm living the life of a monk in solitude, so not with a community, where in a monastery, a large monastery these days, a modern monastery, especially those in the West, maybe the facilities are a little bit more conducive for doing this sort of thing, because you usually have a room set aside that is quiet and cool, a relatively even temperature. I have to make do with what's available at the time. I now have this wonderful kuti, but it's yet to be finished, and it gives me all I need for living, but it isn't always the most ideal place to make these talks uninterrupted, interference-free, but I try my best and hope you can enjoy them along with me as we go through your comments and some of your questions, and I talk about those today. So let's begin. I would also appreciate any feedback you may have about how you are hearing this, the sound. We do have a new microphone, complete with woolly, fluffy thing. I do believe it's considerably better than the previous one. However, I'm perhaps not always using it correctly or have quite familiarized myself with the settings yet. In the process of doing so, I've accidentally familiarized myself with other camera settings. I hope I've not interfered with anything and made that a problem. But again, if there's anything you can offer me by way of feedback, then it can only help to improve your experience of hopefully listening to Dharma. So let's begin with the first comment. Let's turn it round, make it big so these old eyes can see it. Could you talk about the ordination of new monks, how it works, and what is recited in the rituals? Actually, so aside from what she may have seen, because the ordination of a bhikkhu is not for public consumption. The ordination of a bhikkhu is done with the sangha of bhikkhus. There have to be a certain minimum number. In ordination, I'm not sure of the minimum number. Normally, for most of our events, or now I'm seeing a lovely little chipmunk running around in the trees. I'll try not to be distracted. I put a little bit of food out there for them, so that's what's brought him to that place. The ordination of bhikkhus, there need to be a certain number of, at mine there were quite a few senior monks there because it was held in Bodh Gaya. But the actual ceremony is taken place within what's called the Sima, which is a officially designated area marked by some stones placed in strategic places around the building, and within that perimeter no lay people must enter when either the Patimokkha is being recited bi-monthly on the Uposatha days, the full moon and the new moon, or when any official ceremonies like ordination of bhikkhus are taken place. So it's for bhikkhus' eyes only. So I'm not so sure whether that means it's a secret, but the actual ordination ceremony, you're asking me to say what is recited, it isn't really very much. Originally, the ordination from the Buddha to his Sangha, his monks, was called the Ehi Bhikkhu ordination, which means go forth into homelessness, because bhikkhu means a homeless one, homeless wandering mendicant. So it's really come here with your bowl and your 3 robes, and the Buddha would say, off you go. That's it. That was the end of the ordination. And it hasn't really come much further than that. With the addition, are there now some set questions about your health and eligibility for ordination, and then a few chants where we take dependency on our teacher, and in turn our teacher takes dependency on us, and that is as far as it goes. But it isn't for public consumption. But you may have heard, and you may have seen all kinds of elaborate ceremonies going on in big temples with white-robed people having their heads shaved and being carried under umbrellas and parasols with elephants and all sorts going on. That is all the preamble. That's all the stuff that's done for the lay people, offering that individual for ordination. But the actual upasampada, the higher ordination into becoming a bhikkhu, is very straightforward indeed. What is not straightforward, what is considerably much harder, is what then comes after that. Because at that point you have renounced household life. At that point you have made the decision to no longer be a part of the world, living in samsara. But it's a double-edged sword. You're not running away from all the trials and tribulations of the outside world, the householder's life of samsara. You're going to live with, for at least a period of time anyway, a community of other monks whilst you're trained in these rules, this Patimokkha, the 227 rules of a bhikkhu, under close supervision, with their support and their guidance, to learn how to live a life in accordance with the Vinaya Pitaka, those boundaries, those rules, supported by those and supported by your fellow Sangha members. But that community is within society. It is not detached from society. It is very much dependent on society. So you're not running away, but you're submitting to samsara in a way. You're submitting to society in that they support you. And in fact, as we're governed by these rules whereby we are not allowed to really do very much for ourselves, even help ourselves to something to eat, even within the proper time. We're not allowed to eat after noon, but even within that time, we can only eat what is offered. For me particularly, my food is offered into this bowl each day, and that is what I eat, just one time. The only thing thereafter I'm allowed to help myself to is water, drinking water. Other than that, if I want something, a cold fizzy drink, it has to or had to have been offered within that day. So that day is from dawn, 20 minutes before sunrise, until the following dawn, 20 minutes before sunrise. That is our monastic 24 hours. And so certain things, if it's been offered in that day, a cold drink or something, a drink that if I've managed to keep it cold, remains cold, I can continue to have, but anything else has to be offered. So as you see, we have this very close dependency, not only on our teachers within the Sangha, but on society. Now your question is about the ordination of new monks and how it works. But firstly, of course, you have Pabbaja ordination. This is the novice ordination, where you take on the 10 precepts. So the precepts become no killing, stealing, you become celibate, so no sexual activity whatsoever, no lying, no taking of intoxicants. Then in addition, no eating after midday, no music or entertainment, no adornments or beautification, and you cannot use money, and you cannot sleep in a high luxurious bed. I sleep on a grass mat on a concrete floor like that. This is not specifically the case. You can sleep on something higher, up to a certain height. I think it's this, the width of a palm off the floor, to protect you from insects if that was necessary, and you can have a certain thickness of mattress if that's necessary, but you can't have high luxurious king size, queen size, big thick sprung mattresses and all of this kind of thing. We kind of extend that to sitting around all day in comfortable chairs or laying on sofas, that kind of thing too. Well, I do. I choose to be a little more austere and sit on this concrete floor here on this grass mat for meditation, and lay on this grass mat on that concrete floor for sleeping. I have two separate like that because I think it's good to have your meditation place somewhere slightly separate from where you sleep. So you wake up and you immediately get up and you go and sit and you meditate. You finish meditation, it's time for rest, you go lay down and sleep. You can do it on the same spot if you're restricted in space, and mostly up until now I have been. But as someone offered me this extra little mat, I thought, oh, I'll make that my little separate place for sitting to meditate. And I have the cool fan here. It's, if I have my eyes open, a nice view. It's also where I can, this is the train, it still goes by, although it's some more distance now. I have this little area for puja every morning. So when you become a new monk, the Pabbaja ceremony, I think members of the public are able to witness that, see that. But it's in different countries, different cultures, different traditions, it's all done slightly differently. In where I was ordained in India, it's done very much in accordance with the Vinaya Pitaka and the rules of how it was set down. It's not really a Buddhist country, you see. So you find that outside of Buddhist countries, less cultural influences come into play to interfere with the word of the Buddha and how it was done then. And Pabbaja ordination there was quite simple. You went before your upajjhaya, your teacher, and you take the precepts, the refuges. First you take refuge in the triple gem, Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami, as all lay people do. And then you take the precepts, and you go up through the precepts up to the 10. Then at your ordination you take the 75 Sakya rules, the training rules. And then you're also trained and educated into the meaning of those rules and how to use them, appropriate them and treat them. They're about how we do everything. It's about monastic etiquette. It's about how we wear our robes in different circumstances, walk, sleep, talk, even go to the toilet, how we eat our food, all of these things. And you remain as a samanera, a novice monk for some months or years, usually, before you can go forth. At the age of 20 is the youngest you can go forth for upasampada. So you'll see these little young monks, little baby monks, they are samaneras, they're novice monks, because you have to be 20 years of age minimum before you can take upasampada. So what happens at that is, as I've just said, and then at upasampada you there are a few more words and chantings involved, but it's quite it's relatively short. It's quite straightforward. It's mainly about asking questions and answering to the negative that you have all of your capabilities and are eligible for ordination. So I think yes. So I can't. I mean, even if you Google it, you're not going to find the words, because it's not a secret. It's just not appropriate for lay people to. To be honest, there's not much said, so there's nothing nothing there. It's a very straightforward thing, as I say. All right. Would it be considered better karma to eat vegan or vegetarian compared to eating meat? After all, to be eating meat is to support an industry which is based upon taking the life of sentient beings. I think it'd be better, yes, to be vegan or vegetarian if you can. As far as karma is concerned, we are responsible for our own karma. So if somebody else has killed an animal and it's already dead and you eat it, you're not creating bad karma. If you knowingly are supporting an industry, to some extent, yes, you are, to some degree, creating a little negative karma, but not so much as if you were directly asking for some creature to be killed. To be honest, I think you know the answer to that. Relating it to karma makes it slightly more complicated, because karma is complicated, and even the Buddha classifies that as one of the 4 questions not to try and really get to the bottom of, because your head would explode. That's his words, not mine. It would split in two to try and ascertain all of the karmic results, that is karma vipaka, from all of our actions. Now, if you very knowingly are eating chicken every day because it's supporting the man next door that is hatching eggs and growing chickens for your consumption and killing them, then clearly that is negative karma. But if you're buying chickens from the supermarket refrigerator, as millions of people are doing, you're, as a lay person that is, because of course monks can't do that, you are to some extent, to a small degree, contributing to that industry, yes, of course. As a monk or a nun, then you cannot create any bad karma by eating the meat, because it's put in your bowl. So someone's going to eat it. It won't go to waste. It's going to be eaten. So in order to survive, sometimes if that's all that's in your bowl, you would eat it. That isn't negative karma. Okay, oh, this is a long one, but I'll try and get to the question. No, too long to find the question. I'll have to find the question, highlight it, and come back to that one on another occasion. Saying. They were emails, so if they're very long and the question isn't there, I don't want to read the preamble out on here. Are you, oh, this is a nice, easy one. This is the kind I like. Bhante, are you settling down in Sri Lanka? Yes, I am, thank you. Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? I think you might mean, no, are you settling down in Sri Lanka? Sometimes that can be understood as, are you staying there? If you're asking me that, I'm planning to, yes. But I'm certainly settled down here. In every respect, now physically in this one location, and my mind has been allowed as a result of that to also begin to settle nicely into a routine of practice, which I'm not only enjoying, I think I'm benefiting from. I still have my moments, we all do, until even when you're an anagami, or once returner, you can still have, this is up to being an arahant, so the most highest of levels of attainment, one can still have moments. When I say moments, when you might get a little bit frustrated with the situation that's going on, or even show a little anger, a little bit of annoyance, maybe shout or scream and shout at someone because something's not gone your way or according to plan. In hindsight, realize straight away, oh, that wasn't right speech, that wasn't what I should have done. But and knowing this is the most important thing. But sometimes we can't always help our actions of body, speech and mind. We can't control them. We train them very gradually. Part of this living as a bhikkhu, and why we're ordained into this life, is to slowly train and grow with these rules that support us in this training over a period of time towards enlightenment. It isn't an instant fix. You don't run away from the world and escape everything. You don't suddenly have an opportunity of all quiet in order to become enlightened. As you see, now I'm not in the community of monks. With that community, I'm out wandering around or staying in this place on my own for a time. I'm subject to just as much interference as I was within the community, because I'm a little bit more immersed in society itself. I would prefer, for the purposes of this talking, not to have that noise in the background that's only happening now, it seems, since I started talking. But one has to know that that is just a preference and a disliking. This is coming from the original defilements of greed, hatred and delusion, this disliking, hatred. And it would be a delusion, ignorance, for me to think that anything at all was within my control. To think that just because I sit and talk here, or now it's time for meditation, or now it's time for chanting, it's going to be quiet, because we know, of course, it isn't. Like our bodies are never predictable. What will happen to them next? We don't know. I had this tooth problem. I really thought that tooth would have to be pulled out, but in this case, it was a very pleasant surprise. To find that it wasn't the case at all, just a couple of pills for a couple of days, and it was cured. If I'd been alone, I think it would have come to a stage where I would have had to try to pull it out myself, but I had the support from the local community, taking me to the dentist, seeing a professional who could prescribe some antibiotics, make the tooth better, and the problem was gone away. But for that privilege, for that support, we are there to look after, support those lay people also. So it's a symbiotic relationship. It's an interdependent relationship. It isn't this running away. I'm coming back to this time and time again in relation to the first question about ordination, because often people do think we ordain to get away from the rest of the world, but we don't. We expose ourselves to it. We just give up the privilege of decision making. We can no longer decide, like I would like to have had the bathroom, water supply and toilet working in this kuti by now. But because it's not my it is not, well, yeah, it's not my responsibility. I have no control over it. I have to rely on lay people. If they are busy doing other things, that's the way it is. And one just says, okay, well, you can still go to toilet in the forest. This is the way it is. You can go and walk to get the water like you've become used to over the years, because this is the way it is. It's like that. It's just that. And that is what we learn to see. Oh, well, if only they came today and did this, if only that hadn't happened, if only this person was doing that. If we think that, we're going back to what we used to have as lay people when we were in control, and that is a certain amount of expectations. As long as we have expectations, we're going to be faced with some disappointment. Not always, but quite often. And often these expectations come from choice, the array of choice, especially now, especially these days, but always really. When we have a lot of choice, we have problems. Because what do you choose? If you choose the wrong option, it may not go in accordance with your expectations. You may regret making that choice and wish you'd chosen something else. But if you take away the choice, then you have fewer expectations. So as an ordained bhikkhu or bhikkhuni, as a monk or a nun, you have your choice taken away. I can't choose what I eat. I can choose to some extent, if I'm living alone, when I eat, but only within the hours between dawn and noon. I have to finish all solid food consumption by midday, and I cannot eat anything before dawn, 20 minutes before sunrise. So it's only 4 or 5 hours, isn't it? Maybe 6 at the most, depending on where you are in the world. So choice is taken away. As to what I eat, there is no choice. It's whatever gets put in this dear friend of mine here, my bowl. And as far as everything else, my accommodation, clothes, what I wear, even the medicine I receive and treatment, this is out of my control. It's reinforcing anatta, not self, that we have to learn to understand. This is why it's considered part of the training, because by having this choice taken away, we have to become accepting of what is. And it's just that, accepting of what is, rather than having so much choice to build expectations of what could be. When we accept things as they are, as just that, we are bringing our awareness, our attention, all our hopes and dreams, all of our predictions, expectations are not taken away. We can still have aspirations to become free from suffering in this lifetime. We can still wish for all beings and ourselves to be happy, healthy, contentment, from which happiness is derived, comfortable, at peace, safe. We can have these aspirations, but in this present moment, because it is only in this present moment that we can see what is the truth, what is really happening, and to some extent have any control over what will happen. As far as what has happened previously, the past, we can put aside. It's done. Nothing can be changed. As far as the future, it hasn't happened yet. It may not happen. But what we do in the present moment with regards to all of our actions of body, speech and mind, if we can bite our tongue, not scream and shout at the tuk-tuk driver who's an hour late or something like this, then we will make the future better. Even if it doesn't change the surroundings of the future that we inevitably will be immersed in later on, it will affect our attitude to it. Because all getting angry, all using wrong speech or acts of body, speech and mind in an unskillful way is harm ourselves, our own sense of well-being, our own peace, tranquility and calm. And this is what we learn through the practice, and more readily and more easily, because we are more exposed in monastic life as a bhikkhu, as a bhikkhuni. That is what the ordination is for. That is what Erhi Bhikkhu means. Go forth into homelessness. There you are. You're homeless. You're now, to all intents and purposes, naked to the world, but a bit of cloth to cover you, for modesty only. And that is just rag robes. You're dependent on others for food, for accommodation, for medicine. And that is the four requisites. And all we require. We own very little. Just 8 things: 3 robes, a bowl, a belt, a needle and cotton, a water filter and a razor. That's it. Nothing else. Everything else that's offered to us is on a borrowed basis. You know, a new microphone, or this grass mat even. It's lent for the use of myself or other monks staying here for this time, for the future, as long as it's necessary to make life more comfortable as part of the shelter and surroundings. But when I leave with just those 8 requisites, my bowl and my 3 robes, and go to the next place. As you've seen, traveling with me in the course of these videos in different places, what you see is usually the same, because that is the way it is. It's just that. What you see is what you get. Next question: when are you coming to India? Well, I don't have any immediate plans to go to India, but without plans, I cannot say, and I won't have plans because I don't really make plans either. I didn't really plan to come here. It was a last-minute decision on my way to returning to Thailand, and I've unexpectedly stayed here, which is rather nice and I'm happy with. So no plans to go anywhere else, but who knows? Again, uncertainty is there. If indeed I'm planning to visit anywhere though, I will certainly announce it here in this place. So another reason to subscribe, so you're aware of all upcoming things that may be occurring. Not that you're interested in my life, but the things I'm doing, I hope, by sharing with you, can assist you in your lives, because I, as a bhikkhu, am experiencing life in this form in order to further my practice, but to also show you how you can, within your circumstances, living the householder's life, also further your practice too. That is the point of these videos, these talks, and these comments you make, these questions that I discuss with you, are to that end. By enjoying dipping in the water publicly or similar, an international monk could bring a flavour of international relations to the interpretations of Sangha, which in a way is syncretic, authentic practice. So I'm not even sure I understand what syncretic, authentic practice means. In synchronicity with other cultures and societies, perhaps. But enjoying dipping in the water publicly would be, in fact, come under the Vinaya rule of playing about in water. We're not allowed to do that. We don't go publicly swimming, or even I don't go, even though I live on the beach here, swimming in the ocean. I can go and bathe in the ocean, bathing as in terms of cooling down, cleaning, but when there's no one around. So early in the morning, well, most of the time it's not a busy beach, so often it's empty. And then I can go, not so much for a swim. I could if I wanted to some extent. There's not a specific rule saying no swimming. It says monks shouldn't play in water. So we use the water, the lake, the sea, the river, for bathing purposes. And I've had to do that often when I've been living outside. I've lived outside for many years. 3 years in India and was mostly living outside, and I lived even in England, UK, for 3 years outside, where I had to rely on the sea for washing and bathing. in every respect. And I know it's salty. People say, oh, but it's salty. It doesn't matter. You get used to it. It's a bit funny at first, but you do get used to it. So that was before I was a monk. But as a monk, as an ordained monk, you can't just go jumping in swimming pools. Now, if you're saying it's in the interests of making the Sangha look more user-friendly and publicly in synergy, living in synergy with the public, well, that isn't the point of the Sangha. The Sangha is differentiated by the Vinaya. There's many things we do not do that lay people can do that are not immoral, like listening to music. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? But monks can't do that. We can't pop our earbuds in and go wandering around listening to our favourite tunes. It's against our very basic of precepts. It's number 7. It's the 7th precept. No entertainment, no singing and dancing music comes under listening to. So there's nothing morally wrong with that, but you could say, oh, well, it's in that case okay to go to a pop concert because it would be syncretic, authentic practice. Well then yes, but you wouldn't be the Sangha. You wouldn't be a monk, a nun, a bhikkhu, a bhikkhuni. You'd be breaking the rules, the precepts of a monk or a nun. Now, as a lay person, you just have to keep 5 precepts. As a bhikkhu, we keep 227. As a bhikkhuni, 311. So monks and nuns have very many rules, more. And although there are ways around the swimming thing, which I have done because I quite like to go in the sea and swim sometimes, we have to do it with our bathing cloth. We have to do it when there's no one around, unless it's other monks, only monks. And then, if there's monks, we can't go in there just for the sake of it, playing in water, so to speak. And I would question as to why would it be necessary. A lot of these things for monks may be nice to do, but not necessary. And the life of renunciation is not about continuing with the nice things in life, or increasing the nice things in life. It's about renunciation, just that. Giving things up, just that. Not doing what we were allowed to do previously as lay people. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that, but there has to be that differentiation, that delineation between the life of lay people, upasakas and upasikas, and monastics, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. Otherwise, without a separation, it's clearly defined as in that structure, in that form. This is what, going back to that very first question, ordination is for, being prepared to renounce those things. That's a very good short question, but I'll come back to it because the answer, although the question is very good and very short, my answer will be very long. And that's very long. This is this one. I'm not sure about the time now. Let's see if I can see the time on here. Probably time to finish. I'll finish with this question. I am an amateur tailor and a lay Buddhist interested in different denominational robes and their construction. Is there a source to buy these authentic robes? Is it disrespectful for a lay Buddhist to try on the Tricivara or construct one? Okay. So in a Buddhist country, there's many shops in many cities that sell the robes, the 3 robes for monks, for purposes of offering them to the Sangha for the ordination of monks, or offering them to a potential, what would you call them? Someone going, an anagarika, or someone who's given up the household life and wants to become a monk. They have to go to the Sangha with their bowl and their 3 robes. Well, there are 8 requisites. It's called Artakarya. They take the 8 requisites, the 3 robes, the bowl, the razor, belt, water filter, needle and cotton. they go to the Sangha with that. Primarily though, just for ordination, they have to have the 3 robes and the bowl, and say, I wish to become, you say, please have compassion, and in your infinite compassion raise me up to ordination, to homelessness, becoming a bhikkhu. So one goes with these robes in mind. So in that sense, that's where you can find them. As far as where you are, I don't know where you are, so I can't help you in that respect. As far as is it disrespectful for lay Buddhists to try them on? Well, I just don't know the point why you need to. If you're about to ordain, often in the monastery, someone will teach you. You're technically still a lay person. They'll teach you how to put the robes on, even before you've taken pabbaja, so novice ordination. You have to learn basically how to put it on, but especially often before the bhikkhu ordination, to make it a little bit easier, because it's quite difficult to not so much put the robes on, but to keep them on. So you have some amount of training in that before you're ordained, in order that they don't fall off through the procedure or through the ceremony. As far as just trying them on for the sake of it, well, really, what is the point? And to that extent, it could be considered a little disrespectful. It's certainly in Buddhist countries, if you're not a monk, to be wearing them, and to be seen wearing them, very offensive. And in some countries, specifically I'd say Cambodia, I think it's illegal. You would be breaking the laws of the country, so probably other Buddhist countries too. I mean, I know that because they don't in Cambodia even like you wearing this colour, clothes of this colour, just in case you're confused with the monks, the nuns, the Sangha. I mean, back to the point I was making, there has to be delineation, a differentiation between Sangha and lay people. Otherwise, what's the point? It's a definition, a strict definition. This is what ordination is about. You give up lay life and you become a monk. So then if you see someone misbehaving in a particular way, if you see someone going to a shop, buying records and listening to their headphones and eating food in McDonald's, they're not breaking any lay person's rules. But if you see a monk doing that, you know that they're breaking many monastic rules. Even being out in town in the afternoon without good reason, they're breaking Vinaya rules. So if someone was to look or dress inappropriately like a member of the Sangha, like a monk or a nun, even just a little bit look like them, and they're doing those things, it brings the Sangha potentially into disrepute, because people are seeing people, seemingly monks or nuns, behaving badly. Whilst it's not bad behaviour for lay people, it is for monks and nuns. So there is this delineation. So if you're interested in ordination, then you will be wearing the robes for a long time to come. And there will be occasions when you think, I wish I could just wear some simple ordinary clothes like shorts and t-shirt, which would be more practical, but you can't. But as a lay person, I can understand your interest. And as a tailor, an amateur tailor, and with you wanting to make robes, as far as their construction is concerned, yes, at the Katina ceremonies, the lay people do often sew and make the robes for the monks and the nuns. And of course, most robes these days, these robes weren't made by myself. In fact, I haven't got them on properly, but they were made by lay people for the Sangha and offered in that way, ready-made. So most robes these days are made by lay people. So the construction of them is no problem. And if you're just experimenting alone to check that you've made them correctly and they stay on well, I think that's perfectly acceptable to try them on like that. But don't go out in public like that, or to a fancy dress party. That would be the worst, and that would be disrespectful, going dressed like that to some sort of inappropriate occasion. So I think that should I'll have to bring it to an end there, although I'm quite enjoying talking about these comments and questions now, because I think I've spoken for maybe too long already. I'm not sure. So if there's something useful there, I hope you can use it. If not, then just let it go, forget about it, and don't let it bother you. But please come back and watch again, and hopefully next time there will be something you can use in your everyday lives that comes from all of your comments and questions. When applied to this form, living this life, things can be seen sometimes more clearly and a little bit more simply than when those things are mixed up in the cocktail of householder's life, lay life, and often you can't see the wood for the trees, become confused amidst all of the other confusions of life. So bringing them to my attention, awareness here, puts them really in the spotlight and breaks everything down into this common denominator, the common denominators that we have from the Buddhist teachings, that all things are impermanent, unsatisfactory, and out of our control. And when we know that, we're really seeing things wisely from a clear perspective. We're seeing clearly, which is what Vipassana means, to see clearly. So thank you for watching, and be happy, stay well, Sukhi Hotu.